Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to get those key insights from your sources.
That's right.
Today, we are plunging into quite a powerful collection of stories. It's from Jessica Bacall's book, The Rejection That Changed My Life, 25 Powerful Women on Being Let Down, Turning It Around. And this isn't just, stories about famous people. It really gets at that universal thing of facing no.
Yeah.
And how, sometimes surprisingly, it can completely reshape your path. So we're here to help you navigate these stories, maybe find some surprising facts, and uncover those aha moments about turning setbacks into strengths for you.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is how this book just completely dismantles that myth of the straight line, the perfect career path.
Right.
Bacall herself, the editor, she talks about facing rejection while she was writing this very book.
No kidding.
Yeah. From people she wanted to interview who didn't like the word rejection in the title, unanswered emails, even a respected professor asking her, like, what's the point of all this?
Right.
It really just highlights how deep that fear of failure runs, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
I mean, if the author of a book on rejection is getting rejected for the book,
Yeah.
it just shows how universal this really is.
Exactly. The book's mission is right there, showing you you're not alone in these struggles.
So let's dive into Bacall's own story first. She talks about being really embarrassed, shocked actually, when she got rejected by 2 doctoral programs. And her immediate thought was, okay, I overreached. I wasn't as smart as I thought.
That immediate self-doubt. Yeah.
But then her friend Julio gave her this really simple advice. He just said, people get rejected from these programs all the time. Just reapply.
So simple.
And it hit her that was the exact advice she would give her own students.
Oh, that's brilliant. It perfectly shows that initial feeling, which can be so isolating,
Coolly.
but then the power of just reframing it, seeing it differently.
So she reapplied.
She did, and got in. Eventually got her doctorate. So for her, that rejection became, as she puts it, a positive rejection as data story.
Rejection is data. I like that.
Yeah. And there's another example where she didn't get a specific job she wanted at Smith, but her supervisor didn't just say, tough luck.
Okay.
No, the supervisor created other opportunities for her, like a 4-credit class she could develop, a new team role where she actually worked with the person who did get the job she wanted.
So turning that no into a different kind of yes, using it constructively.
Precisely. It shows how you can use a perceived failure productively.
But the book also digs into the flip side, doesn't it? When rejection isn't just neutral data, especially when bias creeps in. Tell us about that side.
Yeah, that's crucial, because if you connect this to the bigger picture, the source points out research like from leanin.org showing women of color often get less support from supervisors. And you see these examples in the book, like Joan Williams, a law professor, being called not a team player simply because she declined extra work.
Just for saying no to more work.
Right. Or Isa Watson, who has a PhD in chemistry, getting low marks in analytics, but nobody could actually tell her how to improve.
So vague criticism with no path forward.
Exactly. Or Laura Weidman Powers, Harvard and Stanford grad, applying for jobs in a new city and just hearing no.
Yeah.
Or crickets, nothing.
Wow.
And what these stories really drive home is how these external systemic things can heavily shape these rejections that feel personal. And that makes them incredibly demoralizing.
That is such a critical distinction to make. You have to ask it right. Is this about me or is this about the system I'm navigating?
Absolutely. It's vital.
Okay, so building on that, let's look at how some women didn't just accept rejection, but they actively pushed back or used it as a spark for something completely new.
Right. Take Andy Kramer. She's a partner in a big international law firm now, but back in high school, she had what she calls a work-related heartbreak.
Okay.
A lawyer told her, basically, that as a lady lawyer, she'd be lonely and unhappy.
Oof. In high school.
Yeah. But, ironically, that awful comment actually informed her next steps. It made her deliberately seek out a small, friendly firm that really supported women, which was, pretty unusual back then.
So she used that negative prediction to find the opposite environment.
Exactly. And later, working in a big firm, she noticed how men would inflate their self-evaluations compared to women. And that led her to realize organizations need to change. Men need to change. Her advice is fantastic, she says. If you walk into the wall, fall down, and then try to walk through the same part of the wall again, you're just going to fall again.
Makes sense.
You've got to look around and say, is there a door?
Is there a door? I really like that. It frames resilience not just as toughness, but as like strategic awareness.
It really does. It's about looking for alternatives, not just banging your head against the same obstacle.
So how do these women find that door? Especially when it feels like everything's blocked.
Well, often it is about shifting perspective, like Andy did. Recognizing maybe it's not just you, maybe it's the wall itself, and then actively looking elsewhere. Isa Watson, the CEO of Squad, she offers another mindset shift. Her mantra is, one rejection is one step closer to a yes.
Okay, that's a powerful reframe.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
She talks about being told she'd never get this huge $100 million MacArthur Fellowship.
Wow.
And instead of crushing her, it sparked this underdog reaction like, oh yeah, I'll show you.
Huh. Love that spirit.
And even though she didn't actually win the fellowship, the feedback they got was really useful. They were told it's too early, or the project wasn't a high enough probability for the funders.
So the data, again, just framed different.
Exactly. So they just kept going with their project anyway, just with less money.
Right.
And they recognized that the winning proposal, which was about educating refugee children, was probably seen as a lower risk, high impact bet for the foundation.
That's a really mature way to handle it. See the no as information, not just a rejection of the idea's worth. But it does make you ask, how do you know?
Yeah.
How do you tell if feedback is useful data, or if it's maybe a subtle put down, or even bias?
That is the million-dollar question right here.
Yeah.
It's tricky. Allie Einbinder, she's the bassist for the band Potty Mouth, gives a great example of really pushing back when something felt off.
Okay.
Atlantic Records dropped their band, and then they had to literally fight to get their own raw recordings back because the studio gear was apparently so specific.
Nightmare.
Totally. So they ended up paying for the mixing themselves, released the album on their own terms, and that whole experience taught them they needed to be their own powerhouse team, not just hand over control to management.
Good lesson. Hard one, though.
Very. And get this, they found out later that a publishing company contact had sent like 40 emails to their old management offering free studio time, emails that were never forwarded.
Oh my God. 40 emails.
Yeah. It just vanished. It just underlines how important it is to be vigilant, to advocate for yourself, because sometimes the rejection isn't even about you. It's about bad management or lost messages.
Wow. That's infuriating, but also, yeah, empowering in a way. You have to
Yeah.
take control. So the insight is about reclaiming agency. Okay, let's shift gears slightly to rejection as redirection, a different kind of outcome.
Yeah, this is a big theme.
There's this story of an investment banker. She had a really scary personal experience, an emergency appendectomy. And then soon after her training near the World Trade Center, 9/11 happened.
Oh, wow. Heavy stuff.
Yeah. And she already disliked the work.
Yeah.
So all these things combined. When she was eventually laid off, she felt this overwhelming sense of relief.
Relief from being laid off.
That's what she said. And what's striking is her realization afterwards. She said, what initially felt like rejection was actually redirection.
Okay, I see.
She used that moment, that layoff, to completely change course. She created her own blueprint, as she calls it.
Yeah.
Developed a system to help students with things like executive functioning, organization, time management.
So something totally different.
Totally different. And she loved it. Turned down offers to go back to finance. And now she actually helps other people design their own blueprints instead of just, trying to follow someone else's path.
That's incredible how a rejection or a forced pause can actually lead you to what you're truly meant to do.
Right. And this connects so well to Laura Galinsky's work on purpose. She defines purpose as, let me get this right, a stable and generalized intention to accomplish something that is at the same time meaningful to the self and consequential for the world beyond the self.
That's a great definition. And the book actually gives you a practical exercise for this. It guides you to think about your core values, those adjectives that are just irreducibly you, roles you find yourself playing again and again. And also the contribution you want to make or the problem you feel driven to solve. It helps you connect with those deeper purposes, which is so helpful when you're facing rejection. It gives you context.
It anchors you. Okay, but let's be real. Rejection hurts. It takes an
Yes.
emotional toll. How did these women actually cope with that pain, that uncertainty? Bacall herself as honest? She says, it sucks.
Huh. Yeah, I gotta acknowledge that.
And she uses support seeking. Like she says, she whines to her husband and collaborators.
Which is totally valid. Sometimes you just need to vent. Elizabeth Bell, who's a psychiatrist, she applied to 17 medical schools.
17, wow.
Yeah, faced a lot of rejections. Plus, her parents were skeptical about the whole thing, and she says the rejections both made me afraid I wasn't going to be a doctor and made me want it more.
Whoa, that's a complex reaction.
Yeah.
Fear and increased desire at the same time.
Totally. And then in her first term of med school, she actually failed 3 midterms. Yeah. And she wondered if she was somehow, like, simultaneously trying to please her parents and punish them by failing. It just shows those really complex emotional dynamics when you're dealing with expectations and setbacks.
Definitely. And then there's self-compassion. Tara Schuster, formerly at Comedy Central, she talked about coping by imagining rejection like a parent kissing a child's skinned knee.
That's a lovely image, applying that kindness to yourself.
Yeah.
And that fits perfectly with the work of psychologist Kristen Neff on self-compassion. It's about 3 things, really. Self-kindness, obviously. Recognizing common humanity, like really, everyone suffers, everyone fails sometimes. It's not just you.
Right, you're not alone.
Exactly. And mindfulness, just acknowledging the pain without getting totally swept away by it. And Neff is clear this isn't self-esteem. Jean Twenge, another psychologist, links high self-esteem sometimes to narcissism. This is different. It's a researched way to cope when things go wrong.
Treating yourself like you'd treat a friend going through the same thing.
That's a great way to put it, yes.
Okay, so self-compassion is key. What about overcoming that feeling of being an imposter? Kate Mann, the philosopher, she tried to avoid rejection, but then bam, a dozen rejections in a row for her academic articles.
Yeah.
She felt devastated, like an imposter.
Oh, I can imagine. That academic world can be brutal. Her first reaction, she admits, was unhealthily hyperbolic.
Meaning
she'd rewrite every single article multiple times, trying to address every single critique, even the ones that weren't helpful or constructive at all.
Oh, wow, that sounds exhausting and probably counterproductive.
Totally. But she learned something really important from it. She realized that doing your best work may mean you're more likely to get rejected because you may be going out on a limb taking risks.
So the rejection might actually be a sign you're doing something original, something challenging.
Exactly. So her advice now to her students is amazing. She tells them to rack up 50 rejections.
50 as a goal.
As a goal. And when an article gets rejected, send it out immediately to a new journal. Don't even dwell on the comments unless they seem really compellingly helpful.
Wow. That completely reframes it. Detach your ego, make it a numbers game, keep moving.
It's about building resilience through exposure, almost.
Carrie Smith, the illustrator, she touches on something similar, emphasizing practice allowing yourself to not be perfect. She apparently struggled in school, felt disorganized, had perfectionism issues, but she realized she was smart because she was reading college-level books on her own just fine.
Finding her own measure of intelligence.
Exactly. And she actually used a teacher's dismissive comment about her working in a bookstore as fuel. It pushed her to go to art school.
Using that negativity as motivation. It's a recurring theme, isn't it?
It really is.
And Smith reflects that, that old shame about maybe not being academic enough. It still pops up sometimes, but now she has more confidence, more self-compassion to deal with it. It also reminds me of Andy Kramer again, putting things in perspective. It's only money. We're not doing brain surgery here.
Yeah.
Finding ways to dial down the pressure.
Right. It's about perspective. These women learn to separate their core identity from the outcome of a specific project or application.
Precisely.
And some even, flip the script entirely on what's expected. They sort of redefine success on their own terms.
Absolutely. Michelle T., she's a poet and novelist. She talks about just being bold, saying yes even when it's scary, like learning screenwriting, which she found incredibly hard, just jumping in.
Taking the lead.
Yeah. And then there's Loretta Ross, a self-described professional feminist. She got fired.
Fired? For what?
For telling the truth. She let slip to a candidate that they weren't actually getting a job she thought they were getting.
Ooh, awkward.
Very. She said she was crushed and angry, but looking back, she realized, you know what? I could have asked my boss for advice first. She acknowledged her own, maybe naivete about workplace loyalty versus transparency.
Learning from the mistake, even though it was painful.
Exactly. And that firing, though painful, led her directly to a new job and deeper work in anti-fascism. It proved her point. Often when one door closes, another one opens.
Another redirection story. Okay, Emily Winter, a comedian, she had an interesting take. She observed that, generally, men are told they're fine as they are, and women are told that we're not fine, so we're always striving.
That's a provocative thought.
Yeah. But she believes that constant striving actually prepares you better for the inevitable bumps in the road.
Interesting. So the pressure itself builds a kind of resilience.
That's her take. And Sam Jay, another comedian, talks about the need to compartmentalize, separate the creative work itself from the selling of that work.
Ah, yeah. That's crucial for artists.
So you don't take the business rejection personally as a rejection of your art. She even talks about bombing on purpose at a diversity showcase because she just didn't like the whole process.
Wow, that takes guts.
Right. She realized, I got to decide what kind of artist I was going to be, taking control of her narrative, even if it meant walking away from an opportunity.
That's incredibly powerful. Deciding your own terms of engagement. It's about maintaining integrity.
Okay, so wrapping up, let's look at how all these experiences, the data, the redirection, the pushback, ultimately shaped their careers in sometimes really unexpected ways. They didn't just fit in, they built their own unique paths.
Right. Chelsea Sundaycline, for instance, she ran for state senator. She challenges that whole idea that there's a right kind of person for government.
How so?
Well, she was a teenage mother, had been on food stamps. She didn't think she fit the typical politician mold at all.
Definitely not the stereotype.
Not at all. But a local political scandal just moved her to run anyway. And she discovered something amazing. Being an elected official was like being a supercharged activist. It gave her a mouthpiece, and actual money, and actual power to make change.
Wow. So her perceived disadvantages became her unique strengths.
Exactly. It shows how your unique background is actually your power. Then there's Unmi Abkin, a top chef. Her perspective is, sometimes it's okay to reject an opportunity, even if everyone around you tells you that you're crazy to turn it down.
Rejecting a good opportunity.
Yeah. She left a really prestigious chef job at a famous restaurant. People told her she'd never get it back. But she left because, she said simply, she wanted to cook her own food, her own way.
Follow her passion.
Right. And it led her to open her own very successful taqueria, Cha-Cha-Cha, and then later her absolute dream restaurant, Coco, even though people were skeptical about its location.
So sometimes saying no to the world's yes is the real win.
It really can be. It's about listening to yourself. Shirley Malcolm, the scientist and engineer, a rejection from a top math department changed her life. It pushed her towards computer science instead. And then years later, on vacation, she had this thunderbolt realization and accepted the presidency of Harvey Mudd College, a role where she could have a massive impact on getting more women into STEM fields, way bigger than maybe just being a math professor somewhere.
Another unexpected path leading to greater impact.
Exactly. And Pamela Schiffman, a feminist leader, she was devastated when she didn't get any law clerkship offers after law school.
Ouch. That's tough.
Really tough. But a dean encouraged her to apply for an international fellowship where she could design her own project, and that experience changed her entire career, setting her on her path.
It's amazing how often a closed door forces you onto a path you wouldn't have found otherwise. Carolina Miranda, the LA Times reporter, rejected from a big journalism program she thought was her ticket to political reporting.
Okay.
She said it stung, but it forced her down a different path. She started finding quirkier stuff, culture stories that actually fit her personality better.
Yeah.
And that eventually led her to her current great job.
Finding her niche because the main road was blocked.
Exactly. And Jessica Bennett, another writer in the book, she built her rejection muscles by just persisting. She cold-pitched Sheryl Sandberg for a job at Lean In. She repeatedly pushed the executive editor of the New York Times to cover gender until she got the job. Just kept going.
Building those muscles, I like that. And finally, Elijah Reiner, Fig from Orange is the New Black.
Oh, yeah.
Early in her career, she got rejected because of her nose. People called it too exotic, Mediterranean. She got offers for a nose job.
Seriously?
Yeah. She turned them down flat, refused to change herself. Her advice now is to treat auditions not just as job interviews, but as opportunities to work and to network, and to just own the moment. She says, even if you don't get the job, it's yours during the audition for those 3 minutes.
Claiming that space.
Totally. And she tells this great story about her Orange is the New Black audition. She walked in and said, apparently with total confidence, when I get this job, I'll bring a bottle of red wine every Thursday.
Huh. Bold move.
Right. She learned, she says, that learning to let it go is as much a part of your craft as anything. It's about the process, the resilience, staying true to yourself, not just the outcome.
Wow. So many powerful stories. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. What does this all mean for you listening?
This deep dive into the rejection that changed my life, it really shows a powerful truth, I think. Rejection, it's rarely a dead end.
Right.
It's often a detour, maybe a redirection, sometimes even a necessary catalyst for growth. These women from all these different fields, they show us that resilience, self-compassion, and just being willing to learn from what feels like failure.
Hmm.
Those are absolutely key.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really does raise that important question for you. What rejections are maybe sitting in your own life right now, things you might be viewing as failures? Could they actually be signposts?
Yeah.
Maybe pointing you towards something even more aligned with who you are, with your real path.
Think about the things we've discussed. Seeking support, reframing rejection as data, practicing that self-compassion we talked about. What about intentionally trying to, rack up some no's, like Kate Mann suggested? How might doing that actually change your relationship with risk, with opportunity?
Yeah.
What stands out to you from all this as maybe one way you could start to lean into that discomfort of rejection and maybe, just maybe, transform it into your next powerful step?